Okay, with this problem, you're gonna have to check my answers because I couldn't check them, and it was a pretty tough one. So I'm gonna see if you can type it into your homework and see if it's right. But let me go through it for you real quick. So starting with the equation, it's obviously not in the right form. So I rewrote it here, except for I moved the negative 225 to the right side, and I left blanks here because I'm gonna complete the square with each term, once with the x term and once with the y term. So with the x term, I took the negative 2, divided it by 2, squared it, that made it a 1, so I needed to add 1 here. So I also had to add 1 on the right side of the equation too. With the negative 9y squared minus 90y, I had to factor out this negative 9 here. So when I actually completed the square, I took the 10, divided it by 2, which was 5, and squared the 5, which made it a 25 I wanted to add here. So, but I'm not really adding a 25, I'm actually adding a negative 9 times the 25, so that's what I've written over here on the other side of the equal sign to keep it a true equation. Negative 9 times 25, though, is 225, so these two canceled and we're just left with 1 on the other side of the equal sign. Now down here I can factor each set of parentheses here turns into a perfect square. So we have x minus 1 squared minus 9 times y plus 5 squared equals 1. Problem here, we usually don't have a number in front of the set of parentheses like we do here, or it usually gets divided away. So what I did was I made it a dividing by 1/9, because when you divide by 1/9, it's the same thing as multiplying by a 9. So I did that so that I could match this form here, actually, this form of the hyperbola. So when I did that, I found that my x term was first, which makes it look like this form here, which means that the transverse axis is going to be along the x-axis. If your x term is first here, then that means your transverse axis along the x-axis. So then I decided that means my a's got to be a squared is 1, which means a is 1. Then that means my b squared, which is underneath the y terms, is going to be 1/9, which means my b is 1/3. And so I haven't dealt with many problems where my b is a fraction like this, but I think that's how this one turned out. So then I went over here. These rules are in your book. They're also on the notes that I have emailed out here. But it says you can find the center just by finding hk. So my h and my k was 1 and 5. And let me check that real quick. It actually should be, I didn't do this yet, it should be a negative 5 here. So I need to change all these to negative 5, because my k is a negative 5 here, because we take the opposite of what's right there, because the general form says to minus your k. Okay, so the center is going to be 1, negative 5. Looks like my vertices, well, it's going to open left and right, so it's going to look kind of similar to this. My vertices are h plus a, comma k. So I took my h, which was 1, and I added an a. Since I found out a was also 1, I got 2. 2, negative 5, and then subtracting it for this one would be 0, negative 5. And then finding the equation of the asymptote, I took my k, which right here again is negative 5 plus or minus b over a, and again b was 1/3 and a was 1, so if we take 1/3 divided by 1, we just get 1/3 times x minus h, and h again was a 1. So that was my final equations of the asymptotes. This is two equations because we have the plus and the minus here. So maybe let me know if that is correct. That's the work I did and the answers that I got. So hopefully that can help you. A lot of it is memorizing these things over here or referring to it in your book as you learn these equations